Hi, Karen Burchill here, and I'm getting ready to start my video series, the first of a video series on the uses of Inktense blocks in art journaling mixed media, and I've called my series Extensive Inktense. So this is going to be the first one. It's going to be a bit of an overview, getting your sets ready, preparing things to make it easier for you down the road. And I'm going to follow this up with one making sprays and using the Inktense sprays in your art journaling. The third video is going to deal with stamping, how you can use the Inktense blocks with stamping, and the fourth video will be using them direct in and on your journal pages. I have lots of notes and brainstorming. I did a brain dump with what I call it with the kids on all the different uses, and I was quite amazed at how they add up over time. So this first one is going to be just an overview of this. Now, when I first came into the world of Inktense, it was with the pencil crayons, the Inktense pencils. I was doing watercoloring. I was not into mixed media at the time. I was very much into watercolor painting, and I thought that maybe that the Inktense pencils would give me a lot more control about where the paint was, and it would also allow me to do the coloring and the thing outside or for traveling. Now they come in these nice metal tins. You absolutely need to put an elastic band around these. Otherwise you will be playing 52 pick or 36 pickup with them, and consider not bad mess with the Inktense pencils, huge mess with the Inktense blocks. I know that to be true because I've played 36 pickup. So the elastic band. Now the Inktense pencils come in a set like this, and the first thing that I did, because I had watched the watercolor videos, is make my colors. I colored on them darker and lighter and then spread the paint through the middle part just to see what levels of transparency and what color shades we have. One of the things that I had to get used to coming out of watercolor, in watercolor they have the true colors. So you have phthalo blue and phthalo green and alizarin crimson. And when I've entered the world of the Derwent, and when I entered the world of mixed media and art journaling, you have all these very cool fancy names, Afternoon Delight Denim, and just different things. And so this way I can kind of match it to the watercolor ones if I want to. So I was just putting the number and the color. And if you don't know, on the pencils they are actually written on the end, but if you don't know the colors, you can just Google the Derwent page and you can find out what's in each set. So I did that, and I also put the names and the numbers on my palette here. This is thin plastic, but I found with a thin Sharpie it worked, permanent Sharpie, it worked quite well. So I'm going to show you a few things that I did with my Inktense pencils. I'm not going to do those live because it's something that I haven't really done a whole lot of. This was done with watercolor pencils. And I think I went in afterwards and touched it up with Inktense. So we have this again was watercolor paper, and you get that very soft look. Watercolor, you know, this was me experimenting in there. This is Inktense, and you can just see the intensity of color. It is solid ink that when you liquefy it with water turns into liquid ink. Derwent says that once it's activated, it is permanent. I found that to be fairly true when using it on watercolor paper, using it with this purpose. A lot of times I drew on there. What I ended up doing, I found more and more, I would just spray water in there and take one of my pencils, wet my brush, these are just my common brushes, and just get the color out. Either I would make a pool of color, so I would make my liquid here. Now, as you can see, that the wood gets wet, then it can warp. Now, they say this can be used this way, and that is how I found I used it the most. Just not even making a pool of water, just going and putting on, painting on there. And you can increase the, you know, beautiful, comes on, doesn't have lines. When you draw on it, I did find, and this is watercolor paper, that I couldn't get rid of those lines, and I didn't like that. So this is the way I ended up using it, because I didn't like seeing the lines in the watercolor paper. Again, that's a personal choice, personal preference. So, show you a few more things that I did with them. This was done with Inktense and splattering. Using this, I made a pool of all the colors and I painted out with them and then splattered. This was another one done with the Inktense pencils as well. Holding the pencil in one hand and wetting it with the others. And I noticed that the more I did with that, the more I thought this wasn't the exact medium that I liked. I didn't like for drawing necessarily, although it does have some uses, and I will come back to it in art journaling, because now that I have it, I'm definitely going to use it. That's why I went and I looked into the blocks, because I was using it as just the color. I wasn't using it as a pencil where I would write on it. Amazon had a tremendous deal. I got 72 colors for $50 to $55. I think now the best deal that I've seen is $65. My sister-in-law got it for $50. I know Yvonne got it for the $65 with free shipping. This was my first, took my Amazon virginity. This is my first video, first purchase on Amazon. I wasn't sure about it. And again, so when I got it, the first thing I did was make my color palette so I could see what there was. Now, bit of a complaint on this. Unlike the pencils, the Inktense blocks don't have a whole, they have it stamped in. They have Derwent in there, and I don't even know if I can find one that has, probably I've covered it up. But they had the color, and I'm not sure. At the end you can see it says 730, which, if the more you pick this up, because it is kind of chalky, it's not creamy, it's kind of like chalk, not quite, that started wearing off. So I just bought some Avery tabs, labeled it, and put it in. I also labeled put the numbers of the colors in here, so it's easy for me to find and keep track of. And that's how I know when I've done used it in my art journaling, what colors, if I'm keeping track, I can just put the number there. That's easy. Now, second pet peeve with Derwent, the cases are very, very, very flimsy plastic. So at that time I was watching a lot of videos by Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, and she has done a whole video how to reinforce it with cardboard and put these little pull-out tabs so that the tray doesn't break, because mine already has cracked here on this side a little bit. So they're not overly super strong. So again, we have the tabs to pull them out. So with the blocks, I found that with watercolor, and at this time I kind of switched into art journaling and mixed media, and I was feeling bad because I wasn't using, I bought these for watercolor, and then I that's why these videos will be in place, because I just decided that I'm going to try and use these as ink in a variety of ways. So, with no further ado, I'm just going to show a few more things that I have done with the blocks, and just to get an idea, this was a galaxy picture, and this was using the Inktense blocks, just painting on the side of the Inktense blocks and following a technique. It was a video out there that I was following. This was done with acrylic paints on a black book, and this was done on white watercolor paper, where you have to get the black and you're using pretty much the same colors. So that one. So the next video is